Yo, welcome to your daily dose of amplified impact. Today, I'm going to share exactly how I made about $15,000 in a single day last month selling a course that I hadn't even created yet. So this was really interesting. There's going to be a couple takeaways I want to share with you guys that can help you maybe develop products faster, take them to market more quickly with more surety that there's actually going to be an audience willing to pay for it. Because I've done that in the past where I've made a product that people did not want, and then I just ended up wasting a lot of time and energy. And so we want to avoid that as much as possible. So the impetus of this story starts because I was getting a lot of my coaching clients asking questions around how to raise capital, specifically the system, the frameworks that we use at Invictus Capital, because we've raised about $25 million in the last 3 years. So we got a pretty good system, always room for improvement, but it's pretty good. And whenever I'm getting repeated questions from people, that's usually a light bulb moment in my mind that goes, there might be something here that I could create to systematize and deliver value at scale rather than answering the same question over and over and over. The last time that I did this, well, not the last time, but a very, very obvious one was back in 2020. When we first started Invictus Capital, we started raising money from investors. We were answering the same questions all the time about the business model, the vehicle, the investment, everything. And instead of sitting down and having the same conversation every single time, explaining what a cap rate is and net operating income and a preferred return, all that stuff, we decided let's start a podcast where we can create a little library of videos, of resources that dives into each one of those things so that when an investor comes to us and they have a question, we can say, oh, actually, we've already created that. You should go watch this video and it's going to explain everything that you need to know. Piggybacking with that, we also wrote a book, Passive Investing Made Simple, because we realized not everybody just is going to have time to listen to a podcast. Some people want to go deeper or read a book. And we wanted to be omnipresent and have the resource available regardless of where people are going to consume it. As a result, Multifamily Investing Made Simple, the podcast, is about 2.5 years into its run. It's done about 300 episodes, and it sits like in the top 10 of Apple iTunes for commercial real estate, which is really, really rad. Same with Passive Investing Made Simple. That came out last year. We've sold about $20,000 worth of books, but the true value is that it's brought so many investors into our pool. And of those investors, I've calculated over the last year, we've raised about $3 million just from people who came in through the book. So those are the benefits of those resources. And so one thing is when you're coming up with product ideas or service ideas is pay attention to what are the questions people are repeatedly asking you, because that could be a sign that there is a pain point. There's a problem that can be solved at scale. So number one, a lot of people were asking me the question, how do you raise capital? And I was like, well, instead of answering this question so many times, and also there's so many facets of it, I can only go so deep in a single conversation. I was like, well, let's see if I was to create a course, if people would want to pay for it. So before I started building the thing, like in a past life, I would have taken that inspiration and I would have just gone out and made the product and then tried to sell it. That's typically how I did it. But my partner, I learned this from my partner, Ryan at Escape. He was really, really good at taking an idea and getting inspired by it and then quickly producing it and start selling it. And he would just let the product sell itself and say, like, if people want it, they want it. They don't, then we'll know. But we're gonna put a minimum amount of time and energy into creating the product, and we're gonna get it out to the market as quickly as possible. And if it sells, it sells. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And that can be good. I learned a lot from him in terms of like move fast, break things. Don't be afraid to launch new products, even if they're not quite ready yet. But also we launched a lot of products that ultimately just flopped. And so we wasted some time and energy there. Last year, I built a course around a product that I knew that there was interest in. A lot of people were asking questions, but when it came time to actually put money where their mouth was, nobody really paid up. And we sold like $200 worth of the course. So not the best use of our time and energy, all things considered. So this time I was like, well, if I'm going to do this, I'm so busy right now. I'm not going to just sit down and create the thing and then try to sell it. Let's try and sell it first. So I went and I spent a couple hours, built a landing page on Teachable. And then I went to social media and just started talking about it and saying, hey guys, if I create this thing, would anybody be interested in it? And people are like, yeah, absolutely. That sounds really cool. I was like, awesome. Well, go over to the landing page. It's on pre-order right now. You can get a discount. If you're interested, then that pre-order is going to be available for the next 2 weeks. And my whole idea was, okay, if I can sell $20,000 of this course in the next 2 weeks, then I will know that there's enough demand to justify actually sitting down and creating the full product. Turns out got that 20,000 in the span of like a couple days. And so I was like, all right, I guess we're building this course now. So number one is to understand, like, you have to see if there's product market fit. Don't then just invest time into building something that you don't know is going to actually sell. And I think the best way to know if something's going to sell is to try to pre-sell it. Because if people are willing to buy it before it's even there yet on the idea or like the pitch, then you know that they're going to be willing to pay for it when it's actually available. So that's number one. The number two is when I had the distance in time between when I had the idea, like, let's create this course, and when I created the landing page and started selling it was exactly 3 days. And some people commented because I had on social media alluded to the fact like, hey, I think I'm going to do this. If I did, would you guys be interested? And people were like, yep. And then 3 days later, it's like, hey, it's available for sale. And people are like, holy crap, how did you do that so quickly? Well, this is the concept borrowed from Naval Ravikant, which is that inspiration is perishable. So when you have the idea or the desire, the motivation to do something, you need to act on it quickly and with like maximum intent. Because if you sit around sitting on your hands, life is going to get in the way. There's going to be so many other things that are going to distract you, and the likelihood of you actually doing the thing is very, very low. And so when you get the idea to do something, move with massive urgency. So I moved with incredible speed to get the initial concept out there. That's not super hard. You know, the landing page, the copywriting, all of that stuff just took a couple hours. Now it's not the hard part. The hard part was after the first couple of days, and I realized, okay, we got the sales necessary to justify creating the course. From there, I set the goal. We are going to create this course in only 40 hours of work. That is all I'm going to dedicate to this. And so over the next 2 weeks, I created the entire course, and it was done by the time it launched on September 1st. And it was because I sat down and I blocked out my calendar and said each day, like over the next 2 weeks, this is when I'm going to be working on it. And I blocked off that time so that it was guaranteed, like this is time blocking 101. So I was guaranteed to sit down and have nothing conflicting with my schedule during that period of time when all I was supposed to be is creating the thing. And so that's effectively how we did this launch of this course, and it did really well. The course itself has been really, really well received. People seem to be loving it, so that's awesome. Already getting really great results, because really what we did was we cracked the hood and showed like the secrets behind exactly how we run our business, which you just don't see very often in the private placement, private equity world. So it's kind of unique and rare in that way. The third thing that I want you to think about when it comes to creating a product or a service is your goal isn't to be as definitive and authoritative and robust as possible. This is a trap that I get lured into. Is like, instead of creating a course that has 10 hours of content and 500 modules, what are the fewest number of modules and the least amount of time that a student would need to invest into this thing to be able to get the maximum results? Because that's really what people are paying for. Like, they don't have all the time in the world. They want to get the results as quickly as possible. Now, this creates this weird paradigm, because on the one hand, if you sell a course that only has like 3 modules, but it's like those 3 modules are going to teach you everything you need to know in the shortest amount of time to get the results that you want, there's a perception of value that the consumer has of like, oh, that's not very much. Why am I paying $10,000 if I'm only getting these 3 things? Whereas if you're selling a course that has 100 modules, then it's like, oh, look how much there is here. It's so amazing. Of course, I'll pay all this money. Okay. But the problem is most people aren't going to complete the entire course. Number one. Number two is if I could teach you how to, say, quadruple the amount of capital you're able to raise, or like whatever product your service that you're doing. If I could help you get the results 10 times faster and you get the same results, wouldn't that be more valuable? And it's like the story of the plumber. The plumber comes over to your house and he spends 2 minutes looking at the pipes, knocks on a thing, knocks over here, and then twists a couple knobs, and bam, it's fixed. And you look at him after he gives you this bill for like $100,000 or whatever, and you're like, wait, you only spent 10 minutes on this. And he goes, no, you didn't pay me for the 10 minutes that it took me to do this. You're paying me for the last 15 years of my life where I learned what the problem, like how to identify the problem and fix it quickly, right? And so there's like this weird paradigm in the world where we think like the longer something takes, the more it should be worth. When in reality, if you can get me the results in half the time, that is more valuable. And so take that into consideration when you're creating your products or your courses. Like, how can I increase the time in which, or like decrease the time in which it takes for my customer, my client to see the desired result? Now, the difficulty here is that you have to learn how to pitch that and how to market it and how to sell it in a way where the consumer, your client, your customer looks at it and says, oh, I understand the value proposition. And it's for you to paint the picture for them, because their mind probably won't paint it themselves. They'll just look and say, there's only 3 modules here. What is this? Now, full disclosure, this capital raising course that I put together had like 40 modules. I think I could have probably done it in 15. So I went a little bloated on that end, but just realize that your goal isn't to just provide a ton of information, like more. It's actually to help save the person time in getting the result that they desire. So that's how we did it. That's how we launched the course. It's been performing really well. I'll keep you guys updated over the course of the next year as it continues to sell. Like, I have done 0 advertising and 0 marketing on it yet. So I'm really curious to play with a couple of tactics, and I'll share the results of that on this podcast. So if you enjoy this podcast, make sure that you like and you subscribe, and do me a favor, leave a review. That's really helpful too. Join the conversation. All these videos are posted over on YouTube as well. So just go Google Anthony Vicino. You can join the channel there. And as always, I appreciate the hell out of you guys for being here. We'll see you guys in the next episode.